Usually when a master architect builds a monument to themselves, their goal is for it to stand forever. They pour this deep concrete foundation, they reinforce the steel, they make sure it can weather absolutely any storm.
Right. I mean, you want the legacy to last.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I want you to imagine watching that same architect build a 100-story skyscraper over a single weekend, like breaking every modern construction record in the book.
Yeah.
Only for everyone to realize he accidentally wired his own foundation with C4.
Oh, man. And instead of diffusing it, he just, live streams the detonator code directly to his worst enemies.
Yes. It is the absolute definition of self-destruction on an industrial scale.
Because the collapse wasn't a structural failure or an accident. The destruction was written directly into the building's original blueprints.
Welcome to today's deep dive, where you and I are looking at one of the most chaotic, record-shattering, and just legally catastrophic weeks in the entire history of the music industry.
It really was.
We are pulling all of this from an incredibly comprehensive breakdown by the YouTube channel Rap Time. The mission for us today is to unpack how the biggest rapper in the world executed a genuine masterstroke of a comeback, only to be forced to delete it days later.
Right. And the timeline here is the key to unlocking the whole story. We are setting the clock back to May 15th, 2026.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the sheer scale of what happened on that night in May requires a bit of an explanation. Drake didn't just drop an album.
No, he did not.
Without a single advanced warning, he dropped 3 full-length projects at midnight.
Yeah, we are talking about ICEMAN, Habibi, and Maid of Honor.
43 tracks hitting every global streaming platform simultaneously.
It's insane. And to understand why he did that, you have to look at the leverage he was trying to regain. Like in 2024, Drake suffered a massive cultural dethroning at the hands of Kendrick Lamar.
Right, the pop-out concert, the Super Bowl halftime show.
Exactly. Lamar won 5 Grammy Awards for his diss track, Not Like Us, and he just completely monopolized the cultural narrative. So as a result, 2024 became the first year since his 2016 album Views that Drake didn't release a solo album, a mixtape, or a compilation.
He went entirely quiet.
He did. He just completely disappeared from the release radar.
But he went quiet because he was preparing something massive. When he finally moved, it wasn't a standard Thursday night release. Dropping 43 tracks at once is essentially carpet bombing the streaming ecosystem.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
It was a tactical maneuver designed to force a complete reset of the culture. I mean, if you hit shuffle on any major hip-hop playlist, the sheer statistical probability of a Drake song playing becomes inescapable.
He just wanted to drown out all other noise in the industry.
And purely by the math, the mechanism worked flawlessly. Let me give you these stats because they are just staggering. ICEMAN alone opened with 122 million first-day streams globally on Spotify.
Wow.
Yeah, which instantly made it the biggest album debut of 2026.
And the historical context of that number is wild, too. It became the second largest hip-hop debut ever on the platform, trailing only Drake's own Certified Lover Boy.
So the only entity capable of outperforming Drake on Spotify opening day
was literally just Drake himself.
That's crazy. And within hours, those 3 albums occupied the entire top 3 of the U.S. Apple Music Albums chart. By day 4, he controlled all top 30 positions on the U.S. Apple Music Song chart. According to Rap Time, ICEMAN hit 500 million Spotify streams in less than a week.
But the viral buildup for that algorithmic explosion actually started through a very unorthodox physical promotional run.
Oh, right, the data dump.
Yeah, back in August of 2024, he initiated the slow rehabilitation campaign by just dumping 100 gigabytes of behind-the-scenes content onto the internet. And that raw data dump was where he first started teasing the persona of ICEMAN.
We have to talk about how that translated to the real world, though. Because he placed a 25-foot solid ice sculpture in downtown Toronto.
And people absolutely lost their minds.
They really did. Viral clips showed crowds swarming this massive installation, but they weren't just taking selfies. People showed up armed with construction tools.
Like literal sledgehammers.
Sledgehammers. They were blasting it with blowtorches. Someone actually brought a functional flamethrower to try and melt it down in the middle of the street.
I remember seeing that video.
Yeah, the fire brigade had to intervene, and Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow actually had to issue a formal statement thanking police and fire crews for keeping the public safe during the frenzy.
Well, that burning, melting block of ice in downtown Toronto is like the perfect visual metaphor for what the album itself was engineered to be.
Pure chaos.
Exactly. It was pure, unadulterated chaos that demanded everyone's attention. But here's the thing. The immense algorithmic scale of this release That 500 million streams in under a week, that wasn't just a victory lap.
No.
That massive audience size was the exact mechanism that triggered an unprecedented legal crisis.
Because ICEMAN wasn't some heavily sanitized, radio-friendly pop record. It was a 43-track, completely unfiltered hit list.
What's fascinating here is the shift in engagement tactics. Because, in standard hip-hop, subliminal disses are the norm. You hint at an enemy, you reference a vague situation.
But you leave yourself some wiggle room.
Right. You leave enough plausible deniability to avoid real-world consequences. But this project abandoned plausible deniability entirely. It was a scorched earth assault with specific names attached to specific claims.
And when you broadcast potentially defamatory claims to an audience of 500 million people, well, the targets of those claims don't just write a song back, they call their attorneys.
They absolutely do.
Let's look at the lyrics he actually published. And just a quick note for you listening, we're just impartially reading the lyrics exactly as they were delivered because the specific wording is what the lawyers immediately zeroed in on.
Right, we are just reporting the facts of the album.
Exactly. And you can essentially group his targets into different categories. The first category was Drake acting as sort of the enforcer of cultural loyalty.
Yeah, and a prime example of that is LeBron James, who gets hit on the track, Make Them Remember.
Right.
Drake jabs at LeBron for switching basketball teams, but the real underlying tension was about the summer of 2024. When Kendrick Lamar held his pop-out concert at the Kia Forum, which was basically a victory lap against Drake, LeBron James was in the front row.
You're dancing along to the diss tracks.
Exactly. And Drake addresses this directly, rapping, "I shouldn't even be shocked to see you in that arena."
And he applies that same loyalty policing to DJ Khaled. Now, these two have made massive multi-platinum hits together for years.
Pop star, no new friends.
Yeah, but on the track, Make Them Play, Drake calls out Khaled for his public silence on international conflicts. The lyric goes, "You went halal and your people are still waiting for a free Palestine."
That's a heavy accusation to broadcast.
It is. And he even takes shots at his own peers in the rap game. J. Cole catches a stray on Make Them Pay, with Drake dismissing the concept of a big three by saying there were too many chefs in the kitchen.
And he targets Playboi Carti on Whisper My Name, questioning Carti's street credibility.
Right, but those attacks, aggressive as they are, they largely fall under the umbrella of music industry politics. The second category of attacks crosses into deeply personal family territory.
Which is always a dangerous line to cross.
Yeah. So A$AP Rocky had dissed Drake on his 2026 album, Don't Be Dumb. So Drake's response on the track, Burning Bridges, targets Rihanna, who he dated on and off for years and who has 3 children with Rocky. Drake raps, "Your baby mama ain't even post a single damn where she at."
And bringing a mother of 3 into a rap feud is always going to cause severe backlash. But it's the third category of attacks that actually crosses the Rubicon from hip-hop culture into federal litigation.
This is where it gets legally messy.
Very messy.
Yeah.
This is where he aims at verifiable, real-world accusations. He goes after Kendrick Lamar's public image and streaming data on Make Them Pay, referencing 100 million vanished streams.
And he questions Kendrick's cultural victory with the lyric, "White kids listen to you because they feel some guilt, and that's how your soul gets fulfilled."
But the most legally volatile lyric of the entire project was aimed at longtime rival Pusha T. On the track, Too Hard for the Radio, Drake alleges Pusha has ties to the convicted sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein.
Whoa.
Yeah. And this is the crucial distinction in defamation law, saying another artist makes terrible music or isn't loyal, that's an opinion, alleging that a real person has direct ties to an internationally notorious human trafficking ring, that is a statement of fact.
Right. It can be proven true or false in a court of law.
Exactly. And if it's false and it damages the person's reputation, that is actionable defamation.
Which brings us to the financial fallout. Because when you amplify claims of federal crimes to a global audience of 500 million listeners, the perceived financial damage multiplies exponentially.
It really does.
A $100 million lawsuit threat immediately started circulating in the industry. And this wasn't just Pusha T. This figure represented a combined legal coalition of multiple parties, athletes, executives, and rappers, who all felt the specific wording on ICEMAN crossed the line into severe personal and professional damage.
And the mechanism for calculating that $100 million figure relies entirely on the streaming numbers. Lawyers look at the 142 million first-day streams, and they attach a dollar value to the reputational harm caused by each individual play.
So the larger the audience, the larger the financial liability.
Precisely.
Wait, hold on. Stop right there.
Yeah.
I have to push back on this because the logic here feels completely upside down to me.
How so?
We need to look back at January 2025. Drake sued Universal Music Group UMG. He claimed that the way they promoted Kendrick Lamar's track, Not Like Us, was defamatory because the song called him a pedophile.
That is entirely accurate. Drake took his own label to federal court, arguing that massive streams cause real, measurable harm to a reputation. The judge dismissed that specific case, but Drake's legal appeal was still pending.
Wait, so by suing UMG over lyrics in 2025, Drake essentially broke the fourth wall of rap beef.
He absolutely did.
So he handed his enemies the exact federal blueprint to sue him, and now they're using it against ICEMAN. I mean, why on earth would he then release a 43-track album accusing other people of federal crimes? Wouldn't his own legal team have screened ICEMAN?
It's an excellent question, and the hypocrisy actually runs even deeper before we get to the legal team. In that same dismissed lawsuit against UMG, Drake accused the label of artificially inflating the streams for Kendrick's Not Like Us.
Right, claiming they used bots and payola.
Exactly. But fast forward to 2026, and Drake is breaking every streaming record in the world while facing his own massive allegations of streaming fraud.
Oh, you're talking about the Genevieve Capilongo lawsuit out of New York. She accused Spotify of inflating Drake's streams. Now, just to clarify for you listening, that case was dismissed with prejudice on May 1st, 2026.
Which means it's dead forever.
Right. The plaintiffs can't just fix a typo and file it again.
Legally dead, yes, but culturally the damage was already done. So, to summarize the sheer volume of contradictions here, you have an artist accusing his label of inflating his rival's streams, who then breaks global records while fighting off identical allegations.
Yeah.
You have an artist arguing in federal court that massive streams cause severe legal harm to a reputation, who then drops an album full of extreme personal attacks that gathers 500 million streams in 4 days.
It is a breathtaking cascade of liabilities. But that still doesn't answer my question. Usually a megastar facing a $100 million collective lawsuit just relies on their multinational record label's legal team for a shield. They have buildings full of attorneys.
Yeah.
Where was his corporate shield?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the relationship between Drake and UMG is the skeleton key that unlocks this entire disaster. Drake didn't have his legal team to screen the album or protect him because he was actively using the album to attack them.
Wow.
He didn't just diss other rappers, he took direct, highly public aim at UMG and its CEO, Lucian Grange.
Right, because Grange had publicly celebrated Kendrick Lamar's Record of the Year win for Not Like Us at the Grammys.
Exactly. Drake clearly viewed that as an executive attempt to devalue his brand.
So on the album, Drake goes completely off script. On Make Them Cry, he explicitly declares, fuck it, I'll battle the labels, fuck it, I'll battle the majors.
Yeah, he is releasing music through Public Records, a division of UMG, while simultaneously attacking the CEO on the tracks and maintaining a pending appeal against them in federal court.
It is a paradox that only the modern music industry could sustain. But fans and industry analysts quickly noticed the hidden mechanics behind the strategy of dropping 3 albums at once. According to reporting by Hits Daily Double, dropping Iceman, Habibi, and Maid of Honor simultaneously wasn't just an artistic choice.
No, it was a calculated business maneuver designed to instantly fulfill the remainder of his contractual obligations with UMG.
Yeah, to explain how label contracts work for you listening, they are usually based on a set number of track or album deliveries. It's a bit like realizing you owe your boss 100 hours of work before you can officially quit, so you just drink a pot of coffee and stay awake coding for 4 days straight out of spite.
Just to slam your laptop on their desk by Friday morning.
Exactly. It was a win-win exit strategy. UMG gets to keep his incredibly lucrative catalog, and Drake gets to walk away immediately as a fully independent artist.
It was a brilliant business maneuver wrapped inside a massive creative statement.
Yeah.
But here is the fatal flaw. By exiting UMG, Drake instantly lost his corporate legal infrastructure right as the $100 million wave of defamation threats arrived.
Oh man. UMG's legal team was no longer sitting on his side of the table. Because why on earth would UMG spend millions defending an artist who just used his final delivery to insult their CEO and quit?
They wouldn't. When you are truly independent, you face the lawsuits alone. And because of the massive algorithmic success he just engineered, every single stream and chart position created a highly quantifiable, undeniable paper trail of damages that opposing lawyers could point to.
The sheer scale of his victory became the exact weapon his enemies needed.
It did. And because of this extreme legal exposure, Drake had to make a shocking decision.
The album that hit #1 in 79 countries, the album that set the single-day streaming record for the entirety of 2026, Drake had to pull it.
He was forced to pull ICEMAN from all streaming platforms globally.
Gone, all of that meticulous buildup. The 100 gigabyte data dump, the 25-foot ice sculpture.
Flamethrowers in Toronto.
It's wild.
Yeah.
So what does this all mean? For you listening to this saga unfold, I think this serves as the ultimate proof that the lines between art, commerce, and the law are now fully blurred.
Yeah, you really can't separate streaming metrics from legal liabilities anymore. The bigger your audience grows, the more precise the dollar amount attached to your words becomes.
Drake fundamentally altered the landscape himself. He successfully executed a brilliant comeback and a genius corporate exit strategy. But the very content that drove his success forced him to dismantle it.
By originally taking his rap beef to federal court, he legitimized the idea that a diss track is a literal legal document. And if you broadcast a legal document to 500 million people, you had better be ready to pay the invoice.
It leaves us with a really provocative thought to chew on. If an artist's lyrics can now be universally treated by lawyers and judges as literal, actionable defamation in court, what happens to the genre of rap itself?
That's the big question.
Are we entering an era where the most authentic, unfiltered art will only ever exist on illegal bootlegs, while our major mainstream platforms just become heavily sanitized, legally approved corporate safe zones?
It really makes you wonder if the days of building a spectacular monument just to blow it up are over.
Simply because no one can afford the dynamite anymore. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.